and go blah, 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 blah. I was emotionally abused by this book. I shed tears and I'm like, why am I crying? And it feels like I've been sitting and talking here for almost an hour. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with the editing of this. Wish me luck. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is JADE and welcome to a new series called Book Blabbers with G. So this is something that I started on Instagram, but this is the official first episode that I'm launching right now on YouTube. Basically, it's an in-depth take on a series that I've read, where I go in-depth on my thoughts, my spoilery thoughts, my reaction reading these books. Really dedicated to books that I truly love and enjoy. Just gush about them, and from the title, I just blabber and blabber and blabber. This episode, we're going to be focusing on Green Bone Saga, which is a trilogy that I've binged this last month. I loved it. It's such an amazing book, and I'm here to talk to you about it. But the first section of this video is not going to be, or it's not going to include any spoilers, and then I'm going to go into a spoilery chat, and don't worry, I'll let you know before I start talking spoilers. This is a urban fantasy written by Fonda Lee. There are 3 books in this series and 2 novellas that I'm still currently reading. It's very reminiscent of Godfather, so it talks about clans and families and this conflict between clans. It is a crime-based series, but don't let that discourage you. I am not into mafia series or crime and all of these things. However, I had a fantastic time reading this book. We have 2 main clans. These are the 2 clans that are in power. The Nopi clan, which is ruled by the Kauls family, which is the family that we mostly follow, and we have the Mountain clan, which is the rivals, that is ruled by Ait Madashi. This book has so many layers, and there are so many different things that needs to be unpacked. This is a series that spans a long period of time, so book 1, I think, is focused on only 1 year. Book 2 is maybe 2 to 3 years. And then book 3, we're going through 20 to 30 years. So you get to see these people grow old from their 20s all the way to their 50s, and some of them even up to their 60s. And I found this to be very interesting, and it allowed me to connect to the characters on so many different levels, as I will explain in my spoilery part. The main set of characters that we do follow, so we have Lan Kaul, his brother Hilo, and Shay, his sister. And then we have Wen, and we have the Meg brothers, and we have Ait Madashi, and there's one character that I particularly hate, Biro. He's like a parasite. He's such an annoying person. Although you might think that he's not significant to the story, he has such a huge significance to that story. And again, I'm going to talk more about Biro and characterization as I go into my spoiler thoughts. What would be the mood of this series? I would consider it to be heartbreaking and emotional. I was emotionally abused by this book in a way. I'm laughing now, but it was not funny when I was reading it. I shed so many tears, and the problem is that these are crime families, okay? So they're not the best of people. These are actually bad people who do horrible things, whether it's murder, whether it's promotion of, I don't know, drugs, prostitution, among other things. So these are not good people. These are not people that I want to be friends with. These are not people that I want even in my circle. These are people that I usually judge and I automatically categorize as bad people. However, as I was reading this book, I could not help but really relate to them and connect with them and sympathize and empathize. And it was so confusing. It was such a confusing experience because these are bad people. Why do I care this much? And why am I shedding all these tears? So it was an interesting experience. I think it's one of the things that made me like these books more and more. This is my rating for the book. So Jade City, I gave 5 stars and I loved it. And in the spoiler part, I'll tell you exactly why I loved it. In Jade War, I gave it 4 stars. And Jade Legacy took 5 stars, and I shed so many tears while reading this book in particular. Let me tell you a little bit about the plot. So it's not just a conflict between 2 families. So we have this material that is jade, and basically jade gives people these superhuman powers. 6 main ways that you can use jade, and jade is not a substance that is readily used by everyone. It's only in people who are in Kekon, and that's why we call them the green bones. In Kekon, some people are born with the inability to use jade, and we call them stone eyes. In addition to that, later on, given that there's the technological advancements in this world, people who are not from Kekon, they created this medicine shine that allowed people who are unable to use jade to be able to use it in very specific quantities. And a lot of the conflict is about the use of jade, and these 2 families are trying to control as much jade as possible. Start summarizing the pros and cons from my personal opinion, so this is my perspective. The good things for me, or the positives, is the emotional punch. Although the writing is very dry and very direct and very in your face, however, the way that dialogue is being presented and how the build up to an emotional moment is done. It's done extremely well. That thing that I don't care about this person, and then when something happens to them or an incident happens or something, I shed tears, and I don't easily cry in books. I find it's not like it's just one tiny tear that is, I shed tears, and I'm like, why am I crying? And I take a moment, I'm like, why am I crying? Why am I experiencing all of this? So the emotional punches that took place in this series were phenomenal. Characterization is one of the best things when it comes to this book. I've never read a book. No, I did, which is Red Rising. However, this comes really close to it, where the characters are real, the characters are flawed, and the characters make mistakes. Characterization is not just by telling me that they are broody or they are sad, it's by showing it. And the way that Fonda Lee does that, it's in their word choice, tone, the way that they carry themselves. Very simple gestures, as by the end of the day, she takes off her shoe and rubs her feet. Every single little detail, the way that they dress, the way that they speak, who they choose to trust. These are all subtle things that help me understand the character. It wasn't just the internal monologue, it was in all these subtle hints that made the characterization in these books phenomenal. Some of the best character work that I've seen in a long time. If you ignore everything else and just read these books just to analyze the characters, and you're gonna have a blast reading these books. Second thing is the fighting scenes. These are some of the best fighting scenes I've seen. They were vivid, they were cinematic. I could see it play out in my head, and I could like reenact it. It was amazing. Every single clean blade fight, or every single scene when there was actual action happening and there was an explanation of how the jade is being used, I love this. It was well done. I usually not into action scenes, but I used to love these, and I used to read them, and I was paying close attention, and I could see the people and who's doing what and who's punching where, and they were so realistic, extremely well done. The third thing that I like is how the culture was being set, how the world building was done, the religion, the belief systems. It was in everything that these characters are doing, from the way that they speak, from the way that they greet one another when they go to the temple, through the celebrations, everything. The culture was really well done, especially in KCON. One of the negatives that I would say, however, I feel like all the other worlds were not as flashed out as KCON. I know that this could have been intentional, but it didn't make me relate to them. Even in Hispania and in Story in Hispania and all of that, I did not relate to it the same way that I related to people in KCON, and I love being inside Janloon as a city. One of the things that this book really did well is that we said that the main storyline is a conflict between Mountain and No Peak, and I think that they tackled struggles extremely well. Not just the struggle between these two big clans, but even internal struggles. So external struggles and internal struggles were extremely done well. We were inside the character's head, and we were going through their emotions and their reasoning and their thought process. I love that because it makes me understand the character on a deeper level. You're able to really get into their mindset and their thinking, and I love that. I said that they're bad people, but we like them and we root for them. Experiencing their internal struggles made you understand that at the end of the day, there are still humans, okay, and made you empathize with them, even if they're murdering people. One of the things that I truly love is the suspense. There comes a time, wait, let me share one thing. Usually when I'm reading, I'm laid back, sitting in the bed, just holding the book, and I'm reading, and everything is fine. The moment that I start putting the book down and I start holding my head and I'm reading and I'm like, you know that I am experiencing anxious feelings, and I'm having an anxiety, and I am worried, and I am stressed. And the way that this book created stress, how it manipulated me, again, this will come in the spoilery section. It's like, I think that everything is fine. Khalas, everything is good. It's fluffy. We're good. We're gonna survive this. And then boom, we don't survive this. It used to shock me. I really did experience elevated heart rates while reading this book, especially Jade Legacy. I was at the edge of my seat. I could not predict what's gonna happen. And then I believe that, okay, so we're done. Everything is good, and then bam, it's not good. And I want to talk spoilers. This is gonna come. We're gonna talk more about that. Which brings me to also another plus, which is the plot twist. I think this was done really well, and the magic system for me was extremely interesting about the jade that gives people magical abilities. One of the things that maybe made me not as, I loved it, but I wasn't as engaged, is because it was too realistic. It doesn't feel fantastical and out of this world. It was too close to real life politics. So, and this is something that is I want to escape. I don't want to read about the troubles of the world, and I don't want to read about how we as mere humans are being manipulated day in, day out by media, by agendas, by the well-being or the welfare of the few. And it was a constant reminder that no matter what I do, I am an insignificant individual, and I do not have power to control, manipulate economics and politics. I know it's a very gloomy, dreary, but given the circumstances, what's happening, this is how I feel sometimes. I feel extremely helpless. I did not enjoy it, not because it wasn't well done. It was extremely well done in the book, but I read to escape. And this was not helping me escape. It was actually forcing me to face all the issues within our world right now, face on. It was an interesting read. However, when you go in, be cautious of that and be wary of that. Second thing is that I think some of the secondary characters were not as flashed out as I would have liked, and even the world outside of Kekon was not as flashed out as I would have liked it to be. In my head, it was always, okay, we're in Kekon and then there are the others. There's Kekon and the others. So this is the only negative that I would have. However, it retracted from my enjoyment of the book, especially in book 2, because in book 1, we were really focused on the city of Janloon and the Kaul family. It was very focused and narrow. And then in Jade War, we suddenly, boom, we went into world that we had to explore, and for me to adapt to that change, it took me some time. But by the time we were into Jade Legacy, even with the time jumps, I was on board, and I just wanted to know what's going to happen. With that said, however, it was the familial moments, and it was the dialogues and these internal struggles that hit home with me and made me enjoy these books on an astronomical level. I think that these are amazing books that everyone should read. It tackles so many different themes, but the dominant theme is familial ties and the importance of family and having people you can rely on and people that you fight for. And although these people are mobs and crime and all of that, they do have values and they have these divine virtues that guide them. Second thing is how politics and economics are intertwined. They cannot be separated. So there's a lot of mention of power plays and sacrifice, and how does this affect decision making. There are consequences to these decisions, so people don't just do random decisions, and even some things come and haunt you later. Every decision that you make, there are consequences for that. Finally, it does address the idea of personal struggles or internal struggles and how you can defy expectations. And when you are true to yourself, this is the best thing you can possibly do, is being true to yourself and what you believe in, and not just sticking to the expectations of what others have of you. There's so many different things. However, these are the themes that resonated with me. Thank you so much for joining us for now. If you've read the book, please stay, because I have so much I want to talk about, and I want to share with you my top moments, and I want to talk spoilers, and I want to know how you felt about specific things and who's your favorite character. So stay tuned in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Now let's talk spoilers. Yes. I can't wait to talk spoilers. I took notes and I was tabbing like crazy, and I have so much I want to talk about and I don't know from where to start. What I'm going to do is let's take it one book at a time, and I'll tell you my likes and dislikes and tell you the epic moments of each book. So I went and prepared a hot beverage. I've been talking for a while. I need something hot to be able to re-experience what I'm about to re-experience once again. So starting off with Jade City. So Jade City was relatively very tame because it was focusing on building the characters and your understanding of the characters. So it wasn't working towards a major plot, but it was just like setting the pieces of a chessboard. I loved it so much. It actually set such high expectations that I think that's why I did not enjoy Jade War as much. Two main scenes that I want to talk about when it comes to Jade City. The first being the murder of Lan. So let me just start. Was it even murder? So it was just so lame. And I'm saying this as a compliment, by the way. It was like Lan, like when I was reading Jade City, first of all, Lan was my favorite character. He's the person that I wanted to follow the story of. And I was like, yes, I want to know how this introverted, introspective leader is gonna go through this and how he's gonna navigate this world, and how is he going to be able to go through all of these trials, and how is he gonna be working with Hilo, very hot-headed, but is a perfect support for him. I was so looking for the story of Lan, and I was like, this book is the story of Lan, and I'm so for it, and this is what I want to read. And then bam, 50% into the book, Lan is dead. I kept on reading for an additional 100 pages, convinced that Lan is coming back, that definitely this is not the end. Because yeah, he's gonna wake up and he's gonna come back. Of course he has these jade powers that he's not gonna drown. Of course he did not drown. And I kept on convincing myself that this is the truth. And I even recall, because I was reading this and updating a friend who has already read it, and I kept on telling her, I love these series so much. The stakes are so high, and I'm so worried. Yes, but yet I know that Lan is coming back, and she's silent. And then 50 pages in, is Lan coming back? And she's still silent. Yeah, just keep on reading. And then I can't remember the point. I think it was in his funeral or something. And Hilo was saying that he's going bury his jade with him. Like, why are you burying his jade? Well, of course he's gonna come back. So why are you burying his jade? He will need his jade when he comes back. And I'm like, and I also texted him like, is he coming back? She's like, I'm sorry to tell you he's not coming back. I'm like, no, you don't make sense. And I convinced myself for the longest time. And I told her about all the different parts of foreshadowing that proves that Lan is coming back and all these different things. And I'm like, I was living in Delulu land. I did not believe that Lan was gone. And it took me a very, very, very long time to accept. And once I accepted this fact, I could not stop tearing up because I want the story of Lan. Why? Why did you take this amazing character away? Why? Are you serious? After you made me love this character in like a very short amount of time, you killed him off? So that was the first punch. Little did I know that this is not the major punch that I'm going to be receiving as I'm going through this beautiful series. Second scene that was so epically done in Jade City in particular was a clean blade between Gontash, I think, Gontash and Hilo, and how Anden interfered. This part was such a cool piece of writing, and it was so interesting to see ramifications of that fight on Anden and how it's gonna totally change the trajectory of his character arc and his decisions. Moving on to book 2. So book 2 was mostly the story of Shay and Anden. I feel like this was the focus. We were getting hints of Hilo here and there. However, I think that the focus was the development of Anden in Hispania and how is that impacting him and shaping his life as a young adult, and the story of Shay and how she's coming to her role as a weatherman. I love these two arcs. I've heard, or maybe because it's my friend, she doesn't like Shay. For me, I like Shay as a character. I think she experienced the most, not only, all of them experienced amazing character growth and development. Things that I loved most about Shay, she has this immense power. As a Jade warrior and as a weatherman in terms of politics, she's extremely smart. However, at every step of the way, she was extremely vulnerable. She was always questioning her thoughts. When she was going into an important meeting, there was always this moment of having her heart rates elevated, or she has hammy hands. And it just made me see Shay in a different light. She is blamed for a lot of the things and a lot of the problems that happened within, and even some of the deaths. I do not blame her as a human. She makes decisions, and these are the consequences of these decisions. That doesn't necessarily mean that it was her fault. And then they had this amazing fighting scene. Editing G over here, I just realized that I went on a blabber and didn't give context. So the next part, I'm talking about the clean blade challenge between Medashi and Shay. It was wonderful. Two wonderful, strong women just hacking at each other. And it broke my heart at the end when she yielded to Medashi, but it was understandable. Her standing her ground and her losing some of her jade and all of these different, and her coming so close to also winning Medashi, that entire scene was phenomenal. And it was my favorite part of Jade War till I got to the end. One of the most shocking scenes that I've read this is the scene that I had to reread to make sure did this really happen, was when Hilo went and he actually killed Han's ex-wife and he took Nico back home. This entire scene, I think this was it's chapter complication, page 194 in those editions. It speaks of the craftsmanship of Fonda Lee, because at this particular, and this is something that I was talking about in my non-spoiler part, he just murdered someone. He just murdered the mother of his nephew. Yeah, you sympathize with Hilo and you make excuses for Hilo and you understand why he did it and you're unable to blame him. And you know that what he did is horrible and crappy and that it should not be forgiven. Yet by the end of the chapter, you rationalize what he did and you say, you know what? As a green bone, this is normal. This is what he had to do. He had to protect his nephew. He had to raise his nephew as a green bone. He should not have respected Han's ex-wife's wishes. And you start rationalizing these things because you start thinking like a green bone. And it starts becoming scary because you are making unacceptable things acceptable. So, but it just shows the craftsmanship of Fonda Lee as a writer and how she was able to make you connect to characters that in real life you probably would never even talk to. Another scene that was also heartbreaking and it was extremely well done, shows the nature of the relationship between Hilo and Wen, was when Rue ingested, I think, jade, and they were worried that he's definitely reactive to jade, so he might be poisoned as a child getting this much exposure to jade. And then they realized that Rue is a stone eye. And for me, this is maybe when I started liking Hilo a little bit, is how he accepted this. He did not have a major reaction. At the end of the day, he saw this boy as his son, full stop. And nothing else mattered. It did not matter whether he's going to be the next pillar. It did not matter whether he is able to use jade, whether he is it did not matter. What mattered is that this is his son and he will accept him the way that he is. And that's one of the things that I loved most about Hilo, is how he was very accepting of people. He was a genius. Some people call him a psychopath. I see he was a genius when it comes to dealing with people, building loyalties through these human connections. The end, Wen dies and is brought back to life by Anden. This is forcing Anden to use jade, and he's choosing not to use jade. All of them went behind Hilo's back to try to murder Zapunio, and I'm like, oh my god, the plots and the twists and this entire section, this entire part, I think it's one twist, one turn, and the book ended. I'm so glad that I read these back to back and I did not have to wait for Jade Legacy, because if the book ended by having a brain damage and I don't get to see her with Hilo and that she's somewhere else and we don't know what's going on, and I'm like, no, I would not have survived that cliffhanger. So I'm glad that I had Jade Legacy on hand, that the moment I finished Jade War, I went directly into Jade Legacy. But that was such an emotional punch. And as I've mentioned, this book is mostly about the family connections and the family ties. The scene where Shay seeks out Hilo, she informs him about that they went through with the plan that he asked for it to be cancelled, that they did murder Zapunio, that Wen was in on the plan, that Anden was part of it, and that they're both in the hospital. The first thing he did is slap her, and she takes this, like, she accepts this slap, and then they have this fight and this conversation. I think this is where I believe these books shine. It's in these particular moments. Yeah, we might have the epic fight scenes and you might all the talk of the politics and the maneuverings and the economics and the manipulation of the Lanternmans and the Weathermans and how each clan is playing the other. You can have all of this, and all of these are epic in their own way. But for me, the books are truly about these moments and these dialogues and these conversations. This is what made it a 10-star read for me. We lost Lan when suffering brain damage, so there are repercussions and there are consequences to the decision that these characters make. That's one of the good things that happened as a result of that, was that he can use jade for good and he can use jade to actually heal. And I like this conclusion so much for Anden and his story. I realized as I was talking about Jade War that I really did enjoy Jade War, and maybe I should up it to 5 stars. So please let me know in the comments, how did you react to all these different scenes and who's your favorite character? Let's unpack Jade Legacy. I have a lot to say. I hope that you're still with me Aslan at this point. Legacy was very emotionally intense. From the very beginning till the very end. Did not mind the time jumps or the skips. Oh, this is 3 years, so Hilo's now 39, so Hilo's now 43, so Hilo's now... So I just had to recalibrate my brain every time we had a time jump. There are so many different punches to the guts in Jade Legacy. Starting with the conflict between Hilo and Wen, and how he was so unsupportive and so unaccepting of Wen, not just because of her weakness, but because she went behind his back. He felt betrayed, unable to sympathize with Hilo, to be honest, because I was like, you need to be there with her. She is struggling on her own. She needs you there. Don't be selfish. Them trying to reach out for one another, yet both of them holding on to so much anger. Beautifully done again. However, it was very hard to read. A part that I did love is when Hilo met Santu, the Black Angel, who was an ex-Hispanian military soldier, like standing up to him, and they were having this conversation and the actual fight, and everyone stopped in the gym to watch them. Like, I really like this part because it showed us, like, yeah, a glimpse of Hilo the horn, not Hilo the pillar. We got to see Hilo the pillar, but I really like that part as well. It was anyway, anytime that Hilo is actually using his jade powers and fighting, it is an epic scene. It was the helicopter or any of the fight scenes, Hilo actually is a phenomenal fighter. Look, I was anxious for the entirety of the book, and yes, I was reading, just holding my head, trying to wrap my head around everything that I'm reading. The thing was Janloon's bombing and how they planned to get rid of all of the leadership within Janloon and the Green Bones. I was genuinely concerned because although I knew and I did remember that they did practice how to steal against bombing since the bombing that happened in Jade War, and he was making sure that everyone within the Kaul family, they knew how to do that against bombs. I understood that. However, I was still extremely anxious because I did not know whether Hilo and Woon will survive, yes or no. And also the relationship between Woon and Shay, I like that as well, which was very sad for his first wife. However, I did like that. Anyway, back to the points. So this part was extremely stressful to read because I genuinely could not predict whether will they make it, yes or no, because I lost faith in Fonda Lee saving people. She's killing people left and right, so I don't know whether she's going to kill them or keep them alive. So it was such a relief for me to know that they survived. Madashi being a knife to her neck and then jumping off the building, and Hilo standing there, and then Shay going there and showing her mercy and not killing her. Like, this entire section or this entire plot line was amazing. And I was on the edge of my seat because I really don't know. And even like when she was deciding to save Ayat Madashi, and she's telling her that this is not a mercy, that I'm doing this to you, and this is the most cruel thing that I could possibly do to you, I honestly was questioning, is this the right decision? Should she have killed her? Will Ayat Madashi actually come and save them in the end? What's gonna happen? So that was extremely stressful. And then we also have another scene when Wen and Shay were kidnapped. I was extremely stressed and I did not know whether they're going to survive it, yes or no, because looking at the Broken Binding books, in book 3, Jade Legacy, the cover had a funeral. So I knew someone was going to die, and I knew someone from the Kaul family is going to die, but I had no idea. So I was extremely stressed. I'm like, will Shay die? Will it Shay, the weatherman, or will it be Wen? No, not just because like Wen and Hilo are now doing well, so now she's going to die and she's a spiller man. I'm like, I was very stressed. Hilo going to beg Ayat Madashi to save Shay. It was just ongoing epicness. This book is phenomenal. I can't fathom how someone cannot love this book. It was just one epic moment after the other, and they were all so interconnected and so well done, and everything just came together nicely. It's phenomenal. Another scene that this is the first scene that I started crying in. Like these scenes I did not cry. I was just worried because I don't know what's gonna happen next. The scene that I did not expect, and it actually tore at my heartstrings, was Make Tar. And when Hilo decided to exile him, and he was like, he took them to the back, he was about to kill him, and then he said, I can't do it. Oh my God, what beautiful writing. What emotions are being conveyed. Such, again, we're going back to the themes of the struggle and who I am as a person and what I'm gonna do. And this entire part, I don't care about Make Tar. Make Tar just killed someone. He had a fight with his fiance. He mutilated her body. It's a horrific thing. Why am I crying for this person? Why do I care so much? And I don't know how she does it. I really don't know how she does it. And then Make Tar's arc comes full circle by him killing, I don't remember the name of the person. Anyway, getting rid of this troublesome person for no peak. And then he was saying, we'll get you back. We're going to save you. And then he decides, I'm done. I did my dues. I paid my things. And then he kills himself off. Oh my God, guys. I'm not giving it justice because I keep on thinking of different things I want to say, and it's just going on and on, and this is becoming extremely long. But anyway, and I still did not even talk about the two most devastating scenes within Jade Legacy. The first scene being Rue. Rue was such a beautiful person. Out of all of Hilo's sons, he's the person that I like the most. Although he was a stone eye, he never shied away from that. He was very accepting of himself. He did not see his worth in his jade powers or abilities. He understood his status in his family, and he was willing to make a difference no matter what. He was writing his own path, and he was very determined to make a difference and be helpful in any way that he can. He's being set up in order to instigate again the fight or the civil war between the mountains and No Peak. And he's being set up, and then he realizes it, and he rises to the occasion, and he calls for a clean blade in order to avoid trouble to No Peak because he doesn't want to create trouble. And then he uses all his skills as a fighter. He's Hilo's son through and through. He's truly a green bone, greenest of them all, even without jade abilities. And I was like, literally, again, with my friend, I was texting her, and I'm like, I'm so worried for Rue. Is this going to be the end? And then I start reading the channel, like, yes, we're safe. He's winning. And then 5 minutes later, like, seriously, did he just die by someone not following Aisha? Rue's death was so unexpected. It was so uncalled for. And it was a reminder of life that nothing can be predicted. Funeral, it took me a moment to realize that he truly is dead by a Talon knife. And then this entire scene with his funeral and everyone coming together and Nico coming back and the conversation between or she slapped Nico, but the conversation between Nico and Hiro. She's a genius. Fonda Lee is a genius. When I told you, like, forget about everything in the book, but read the book for these scenes only. And I have so many of them tabbed just so I could, I'm not sure if it shows or not, but I have so many of them tabbed just so I could go and revisit these chapters. And then, so you're emotionally devastated. The book is almost over. You have like 100 pages left. And I'm reading through and I'm like, this is over, khalas. The fight is over. No peak are winning. Everything is fine. Everything is going according to plan. This is a bittersweet ending. We're tying like loose ends. And I felt safe, honestly. I'm just reading to get this series over and done with. Khalas, it's been a wonderful time and I can't take it anymore. Like, Rue's death got me, ruined me, and I had to stop reading after it. And I'm like, I have 100 pages, I'll finish them the next day. And I started reading and khalas, I feel safe. I did not imagine anything else happening. I did not see Hilo's death coming at all. And up to this point, I didn't think that I liked Hilo. It's telling me that Hilo is the guy I should be rooting for. It is Hilo's book and it is the story of Hilo. And I know that this is true, but up to this point, I did not have this obsession with Hilo. I was still fairly obsessed with Lan, although we're not following him. Every time they remembered Lan, every time there was a throwback or they're trying to remember a conversation they had, they've mentioned Lan in any context, whether they're referring to Nico and how he looks like Nico. And I always got emotional. I still did not connect to Hilo at this point. But then when I saw his sacrifice and how he sacrificed himself to protect Nico and Shay, he did not deflect the close proximity. And then we see him dying, and then Shay's calling an ambulance, and then he tells her, no, take me home, I'm dying, I can't feel my legs, and then seeing him and trying to channel. I'm getting emotional. I'm gonna stop here. Anyway, the tears that I've shed for Hilo. I told you I don't like this person, okay? And I know that he's a killer. And to the very last, he was always one step ahead of others, okay? Unlike Shay, I was devastated again. Like, I didn't think anything could hurt me more than Rue's death, but then Hilo's death came, and I was like, I was done. I'm being very honest. I was done with this series. I could not take it anymore. It was tough. Seeing Nico take over and being a pillar, and I have a feeling that he will be a good pillar and he will be supported, but I'm like, I wanted Hilo to be there for him. He needed this Hilo's expertise. He needed this father figure to be there with him. Since I've finished reading this book, I can't stop thinking about it. I've been preparing for this, and as I told you, I've been taking notes, and I'm like, every now and then I'm coming to even more realization. I keep on thinking of more parts, and new things are popping into my head, new ideas, new thoughts. That's how intense, or that's how an amazing reading experience it is. These characters are with me, they're living with me. And I even changed the position of Jade City. Now I'm going to have an entirely new setup for them, and I hung my Lumi Crate bookmarks on the shelf till I figure out a way to display them in a nicer way. But anyway, if I'm going to wrap up, I would say it's not a book for everyone. It's definitely an emotional read. Understand that there are some low points within this book where they go so much into politics and economics. So if this is not your thing, you might get a little bit bored, but understand that the human element and the human connections and the human relations or the familial bonds within this book worth going through all these extra different layers or going through all of these extra chapters. The most important lesson I've learned within or from reading these series is that we all have good and evil inside of us. I think we need to be a little bit less judgmental of others. The question that I'm still asking myself till today is, these are bad people. Why do you cry and why do you care? These are fictional people, not just bad. So these are bad fictional people. So why do you cry and why do you care? I know this was a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts and opinion. Let me know your favorite scenes, your favorite characters. Do you like Shay? Am I one of the few people, or did you see Lan's death coming? What did you feel about Hilo's death, Rue's death, all of these things? Let me know. Mention that it's a spoiler, just in case, so we wouldn't ruin epic fantasy story to anyone. I guess that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you would like more of these book blabbers. Know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!